as someone, a lot of songwriting, a lot of playing, producing, all of those things. Perhaps let's bring it into the modern, into the current time for you as a music maker. What would your one piece of, that you go back to? You mentioned during the pandemic, kind of pushing out songs at a seemingly dangerous pace.
Yeah.
But by the way, just for any of our listeners, that's like 90 songs minimum.
Yeah. I think you mentioned like between 5 and 7 songs a month for I don't know, like a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So that is, and these are again, full songs too, not like, oh, here's a little 20-second riff on guitar that I did in Logic. Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff got released as Glasswing, which was my solo project. That was I kind of put the ones that felt, and that was only one style. I did some jazz songs and some retro, sci-fi electronic music. And I did some orchestral stuff. So I did all the good thing was it could be any style. And so they were just whatever you want to send us. So, but yeah.
Well, that's fun. What's the one piece of gear that sewed it all together, that tied all that very eclectic mix of writing together, if there was one?
So if I was recording, obviously I would need a MIDI controller and some virtual instruments. That's that's my bread and butter. But that's not a fun answer. And obviously I have no sentimental, I feel like there's a sentimentality to this question of what's the thing, the inspiring instrument that really gets you writing, which
I don't know, man. The right sound can really go a long way. Tom and I are always harping on that here. So even though you're well, virtual instruments, whatever, it's I don't know, if there's a patch that you just are every time I pull this up, it gives me something that I can feel.
Yeah.
That's the same thing as the favorite guitar or whatever. It's, so I wouldn't be quick. We certainly would not judge or discount any favorite soft synths or virtual, plugin stuff that you kind of gravitate towards. Cause I think that's kind of the exact point where it's just you get one thing. This is kind of the desert island. You get you get this thing.
What would be the virtual instrument?
I knew that was coming.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It would have to be and honestly, I don't know if I've found the perfect, but a muted piano.
Okay.
I don't know if I've found my ultimate muted piano. That Felt Instruments has a cool one, and then the Spitfire Labs soft piano is nice and useful. But something like that. But I don't know if I've found the perfect one, to be honest. Maybe Una Corda, maybe it does a lot. Have you used Una Corda? It's a beautiful instrument.
I've heard of it. Yeah. I've heard of it. I've heard people sing its praises.
What's the Felt one from? Is it Contact?
No, it's just its own VST. It's called Felt Instruments.
For a little bit, I was using one by Native Instruments that had the player. You can adjust the player amount of creaky.
Well, the Native Instrument stuff is crazy, down to the Giant, and they do have a lot of period sounds and some really cool room stuff, but which again is can be inspiring in its own kind of cinematic way. But yeah, you're probably looking for something that has a bit of the feel for writing for you, right?
Yeah. Of course, I like all the incidental sounds like that, the player and the pedal. And the mechanics of the piano, I like to hear all that stuff. It's funny, it seems like people wanted the cleanest sounding for so long. Everyone wanted the cleanest sounding virtual instruments, and that just made virtual instruments kind of a joke, right? Because it's just too clean. Yep. And then now they pile on the little dirty mechanical sounds and the player sounds and the creaky piano bench and all those things. I love it.
Yep, it's like the it's like all of the like software arenas version of the like Fender Road Worn like pre beat up series.
Yeah.
You know, like the distressed sound, you
Yeah.
know. But I mean, again, I think it's cool, and ultimately, it's all modeled off of real world stuff that people want. You know what I mean? Just like it was before. So
Sure.
it's an interesting thing for sure, and they can do some. They're all tools. It's about how you choose to use it. You can still just mess up a virtual sound the same way you can mess up something in an analog realm and do it in a cool way that you like. So, you know, it's all about what gets you there in the headspace that you want to be. So, yeah. Do you have something that if it wasn't a virtual instrument, then
it would probably be my Les Paul. I have an 84. It's the standard studio is like when from 82 to 85, Gibson made these. I don't know if you know about this. They cut a bunch of Les Paul bodies too thin, and they decided like, oh fuck it, just sell them as like a new model. And this guy Tim Shaw had made like a budget pickup for Gibson. They're like, okay, put those Tim Shaw pickups in, put dot inlays in it. It still has the binding, and it still looks like a standard Les Paul, just has dot inlays. And they're just so good. They're so good. And I need to get another one before people discover how awesome they are, because how that happens.
We'll hold off on this. I'm gonna go. I'm finding it right now. So, but honestly, if you're listening to this, don't even bother. We've bought them all. It's not even worth it.
But if you see an early '80s Les Paul with dot inlays and binding, just get it. They're so good.
Or don't get it. That's definitely not me typing this into.
Yeah, Casey's like going on to Reverb right now.
But that guitar just feels like this is like that guitar that feels like I was born with it on, and it sounds so good. It sounds like it's very dark. It's a very dark Les Paul, but yeah, that would be it.
Wow. I love that. And I'm definitely not scrolling and looking it up right here. No, that's great. Yeah. I've always been, for a really long time, been a Les Paul guy too. And what's interesting is how much thinner would you say the body was cut?
I don't know, but it's significantly lighter. That's like the big takeaway is it's like a lot lighter than your average Les Paul.
Dude, which is why I stuck with a studio for so long.
Yeah, they feel like a studio. Because my first Les Paul was a studio.
Yeah,
it's comparable in weight to that, but awesome. It's like a proper like standard Les Paul, a little bit lighter.
Your workhorse. How long have you had it for?
That was my like gift to myself when we went to make In Motion. So I bought it. It would have been 2004 that I bought it.
So it was before. So it was on. Was that the guitar that was on? Because the In Motion has some guitar tone,
some ripping guitars. Yeah. That was like the main guitar I used on that record, I would say.
Oh, so good. Well, what an awesome like sneak peek across multiple records. Then look at that one. Wow, man. Yeah, we love it. I got to get you to send me a pic of it too. We'll include it when this episode goes up on socials and stuff. That's really special. But thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, man.